in the gilded chambers of the Oval Office on a crisp Tuesday in early October 2025. A carefully choreographed diplomatic ballet unfolded between two leaders, whose relationship embodies both the promise and the perils of modern North American politics. Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada, a man who had built his political career on the promise of standing firm against American economic pressure, found himself seated across from President Donald Trump, a leader known for his unpredictable temperament and his willingness to leverage economic weapons to achieve his goals. The scene was remarkable, not for what was achieved, but for what was avoided. Carney walked into the White House carrying the weight of a nation's economic anxiety. Millions of Canadian workers wondering when the punitive tariffs strangling their industries would finally be lifted. Yet, he emerged without a breakthrough deal, without the tangible victory that might have justified the political risk of making the journey. Still, in the peculiar mathematics of diplomatic success, the visit was counted as a triumph simply because it did not descend into chaos, or confrontation, or the kind of public humiliation that has befallen other world leaders in that very same room. President Trump, a man not known for dispensing compliments freely, especially to foreign leaders who challenge his policies, surprised observers with his effusive praise for the Canadian Prime Minister. He described Carney as a world-class leader, a tough negotiator, someone capable of walking away from their meeting, feeling satisfied with the progress made. The president spoke of great love between the two nations, an almost familial bond, even as he acknowledged what he termed a natural conflict. An inherent tension in the economic relationship between two countries so deeply intertwined, yet so differently positioned in global trade dynamics. The warm reception represented a significant victory for Carney, particularly given the high-stakes gamble he had taken in making the trip. Back home in Canada, political opponents and media commentators had questioned the wisdom of traveling to Washington without assurances of a concrete deal. The optics of returning empty-handed, of appearing to have bent the knee without securing relief for Canadian industries, carried real political danger. In the unforgiving arena of domestic politics, perception often matters more than diplomatic nuance, and the perception of weakness can be fatal to a leader who won election on promises of strength. The complexity of the Canada-United States relationship cannot be overstated. These are not merely two countries sharing the world's longest undefended border, a geographical fact often cited to symbolize their peaceful coexistence. They are economically fused in ways that make disentanglement nearly impossible, and certainly inadvisable. Canadian and American supply chains are interwoven across countless industries, from automotive manufacturing to agriculture, from energy production to technology services. Millions of jobs on both sides of the border depend on the smooth flow of goods and services and capital across that border. When Trump imposed his tariffs earlier in the year, describing them as necessary to protect American industries and correct what he viewed as long-standing trade imbalances, the economic impact on Canada was immediate and severe. Manufacturing plants faced closure, farmers worried about losing access to their primary export market, and entire communities built around cross-border trade relationships suddenly confronted an uncertain future. The tariffs functioned like a tourniquet applied to the economic arteries connecting the two nations, not severing them completely, but restricting flow enough to cause serious pain. Carney had ridden a wave of nationalist sentiment to victory in the April elections, positioning himself as the leader who would not capitulate to American pressure, who would defend Canadian economic interests with determination and skill. His background as a former central banker, having served as governor of both the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, lent credibility to his economic expertise. Voters trusted that he understood the intricacies of international finance and trade negotiations, and that he possessed the technical knowledge to go toe-to-toe with American negotiators. Yet expertise alone does not guarantee success in dealing with Donald Trump, a president who has consistently defied conventional diplomatic wisdom, who values personal relationships and theatrical gestures as much as, or perhaps more than, detailed policy papers. The months since Carney took office have been marked by regular communication between the two leaders, phone calls and text messages that suggested a warming relationship, a personal connection that might provide pathways around seemingly intractable policy disputes. In the world of Trump diplomacy, being liked by the president often matters more than being right. The question-and-answer session with reporters during the Oval Office photo opportunity revealed the delicate dance both leaders were performing when journalists pressed Trump on why Canada had not yet secured a deal similar to the one the European Union had recently negotiated. The president deflected with humor, suggesting that his own desire to be seen as a great man prevented him from making things too easy for Carney. The comment drew laughter, but it also contained a kernel of truth about Trump's negotiating style. His need to be perceived as having extracted maximum advantage from any agreement. For his part, Carney praised Trump's peace efforts around the world, highlighting the president's involvement in Middle East negotiations, a topic Trump is known to value highly. This strategic flattery, this willingness to acknowledge Trump's self-perceived accomplishments, represents the kind of diplomatic tool that has proven effective with the American president. Leaders who have succeeded in their dealings with Trump have often been those willing to stroke his ego, to make him feel respected and admired, even as they pursue their own national interests. The broader context of the meeting includes Trump's continued needling of Canada with his recurring joke about making it the 51st state of the United States. Just days before Carney's visit, the president had revived this familiar taunt during remarks to American generals, suggesting that Canada's economic dependence on the United States might as well be formalized as political incorporation. While most observers understand this as Trump's characteristic trolling, his use of provocative statements to unsettle opponents and dominate news cycles, the comments sting in Canada, where national pride and sensitivity about American domination run deep. The tariff dispute itself centers on fundamental disagreements about trade fairness and reciprocity, and the proper balance of economic power between nations of vastly different sizes. The United States, with an economy roughly 10 times larger than Canada's, can absorb trade disruptions more easily than its northern neighbor. This asymmetry of power gives Trump leverage, but it also creates political pressure on him to demonstrate that he is using that leverage effectively, not simply bullying a smaller ally that Americans generally view with warmth and familiarity. Canadian officials have been careful to set realistic expectations for what the White House meeting could achieve. They have characterized it as an essential step in a longer process, an opportunity for the two leaders to develop personal rapport and understanding, which might eventually translate into policy breakthroughs. This framing allows Carney to claim progress even in the absence of immediate concrete results, to argue that relationship building is itself a form of advancement toward the ultimate goal of tariff elimination. The economic stakes for Canada are enormous, representing not just abstract trade statistics, but real impacts on real communities. Consider a small manufacturing town in Ontario, where a single factory producing automotive parts for American car companies employs hundreds of workers, supports dozens of local businesses, and generates the tax revenue that funds schools and hospitals and infrastructure. When tariffs make that factory less competitive, when orders decline and layoffs loom, the entire ecosystem of that community faces threat. Multiply that scenario across dozens of sectors and hundreds of communities, and the full weight of what Carney is trying to resolve becomes clear. Looking ahead, the path to a comprehensive trade agreement remains uncertain, fraught with both political and economic complications on both sides of the border. Trump faces pressure from American industries that benefit from tariffs, from political bases that respond to his nationalist rhetoric, from advisors who view economic confrontation with trading partners as strategically valuable. Carney must balance the need to make concessions that might unlock a deal against the domestic political cost of appearing to surrender Canadian interests. Both leaders are navigating treacherous terrain, where the wrong move could trigger backlash from constituencies they cannot afford to alienate. Yet, where the failure to move at all perpetuates an economically damaging status quo that neither country truly wants to maintain. As we continue to follow this evolving story of diplomacy, economic brinkmanship, and the complex relationship between two nations bound by geography, but often divided by politics, we will keep you updated on every development that shapes the future of North American trade. The Carney-Trump dynamic represents more than just a bilateral negotiation. It is a window into how modern international relations unfold in an era of personality-driven diplomacy, where tweets can move markets, and personal chemistry between leaders can matter as much as policy details. Stay informed, stay engaged, and join us as we analyze the forces shaping our world. If you found this analysis valuable, insightful, and thought-provoking, we invite you to like, share, and subscribe to West is Best, where we bring you in-depth coverage of the political, economic, and diplomatic stories that matter most. Hit that like button if this video added value to your understanding. Smash that subscribe button. Ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. And share this video with friends, family, and colleagues who want to understand the real dynamics behind the headlines. Your support through likes, shares, and subscriptions helps us continue delivering the quality journalism and thoughtful analysis that cuts through the noise and gives you the context you need to make sense of our rapidly changing world. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.